I've been a fan of rhythm games for a good portion of my life, and because of that, I've seen many games fall into obscurity over the years, most not even getting occasional mentions by other fans of the genre. Some great games like Bakumatsu Rock, and some really, really bad games like the latest Guitar Hero. There have been so many rhythm games over the years that it's natural for this to happen. In fact, it's even more special when a game has held some sort of relevance over the years. Games like Project Diva, Stepmania, Guitar Hero, and Osu have all held their place as some of the most well-known and beloved rhythm games for a reason. There are a few games, however, that I cannot seem to find out why their names have stuck around for so long. Games like Vib-Ribbon. Vib-Ribbon is a strange game. It was only released in Japan and Europe for the region-locked PlayStation back in 1999. If American players wanted to play this game, they would have to import both the game and the console, which most players couldn't afford to do, especially not for just one game. Yet, the game still managed to stick around, still being brought up in discussions about the genre to this day. But why? Clearly something about this game must have been special to warrant being relevant 20 years after its original release. Okay, let's start with the elephant in the room. This game isn't rendered with any unnecessary bullshit like polygons or 3D models or colors. This entire game is rendered with vectors. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. I think the Vectrex is a really cool console, and the only thing that can render is vectors. The real issue here is that these vectors shake constantly. This game honestly makes me physically ill. I get nauseous while I'm trying to play it and commonly end play sessions with a migraine. When recording this, I had to take frequent breaks, more so than any other game I've uploaded to the channel thus far. However, it wasn't only the graphics that gave me migraines. Let's talk about how this game plays. The rabbit, named Vib-Ribbon, runs along a track. Obstacles show up and you're supposed to react to them in time with the music. There are 4 main obstacles: blocks, dodged with L1, loops, dodged with R1, pits, dodged with the D-pad, and spikes, dodged with the face button. During the 3rd stage, the game combines obstacles. This setup isn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's also not great. The game has no indication of what button you need to press besides the obstacle itself. This isn't a big problem until stage 3, where you have to quickly figure out what 2 obstacles are part of the upcoming obstacle. Some of them are very visually similar. Block plus spike and block plus pit are nearly indistinguishable from each other. In addition to this issue, the game suffers from many issues that plagued early rhythm games. Inputs have to be freakishly precise. The window to actually get through an obstacle is very small. Inputs also get dropped, not all too often, but often enough to be noticeable. And the rabbit makes everything worse. Every time you miss an obstacle, this fucker screams. The screams take the attention off the music, which always fucked me up. This is another unfortunately common issue with early rhythm games. Taking away pieces of music for messing up is not okay. It ensures the player will miss more notes as their mistakes compound on top of each other. Games like the early Project Diva and Guitar Hero games are especially bad about this. It's very rare that I see something like this done right. MuSyncs takes away part of the music when you mess up, so it's easy enough to reorient yourself afterwards. In Vib-Ribbon, the rabbit screams cover all of the audio, and the game's constant jittering worsens, so you can't see the inputs or hear the music leading up to them. This is really, really bad, considering the complex objects you have to react to later in the game. Speaking of messing up in this game, for whatever godforsaken reason, the game shakes more as you mess up. If you're already doing bad, the game can end up being unplayable. I already found this game difficult to look at, and its punishment for messing me up is making it harder to look at. This commonly caused me to mess up even more than I already had, which caused the screen to shake more, which caused me to mess up more. It was a constant negative feedback loop, and all it took to trigger it was a 1 or 2 unreadable objects or a dropped input. The 3 built-in stages in this game are bad enough to play through on their own, but this game has a mode to generate stages based off of your CDs. This meant I had to play through an entire CD to be able to give this game a fair chance. I chose Pinocchio P's Obscure Questions because it's one of my all-time favorite albums, and I just so happen to have it sitting nearby. I played most of the songs on this album, and I found one common thread among all of the beat maps it generated. They were all awful. Double inputs were far more common than single inputs, and that was for the 50% of maps I considered sort of playable. The other 50% looked like this! Why can this game generate maps like this? How can anyone be expected to read that? It's like actually spawning the obstacles out of order. They are passing each other on the track. This game is hard enough to read with just the double notes, and it can do shit like this. This game cannot be real. Sadly, this game is real, and it was actually really well received. It received really high review scores, and according to the game's Wikipedia page, it's in the Museum of Modern Art. On top of that, it received not 1, but 2 sequels. No, I'm not planning on playing either. I find this game to be absolutely dreadful. It has unreadable obstacles, overly specific timing, constant screaming, constant shaking, a monochrome color scheme, and migraines. It's all too much for me. It is, without a doubt, the worst rhythm game I've ever played.